Aloha and welcome to Betty's Real Estate Corner, brought to you by Sakamoto Properties, where prestige is our business, reputation our foundation. Today, Dean Otto is here with me in the studio, and we're trying to come up with some things that we think you'll be interested in hearing about, maybe a little bit of mortgage information, some information on what you ought to be doing as a seller to sell your home. I think Dean came up with a variety of interesting statistics. And so we're going to kind of wander through one thing and another. Aloha, Dean.
Aloha, Betty. Thanks for having me. Hey, talking about market updates and statistics, probably the question I'm getting the most is, what's going on with the market? We keep reading and hearing about how the market is improving and progressing. However, it certainly doesn't feel like it. And I think it becomes a little evident as you look at the statistics. Number of single-family home sales, number of condominium sales in Maui is very flat. In fact, we had 511 sales this year so far on Maui, and last year we had 511. So we're exactly in the same place as we were last year.
That's basically residential homes.
That's residential homes. And condominiums, almost the same thing. We had 740 last year and 744 this year. So we're pretty flat. I mean, the market is sort of chugging along. Not making huge progress, but I think that the general consensus is that we are actually on the upswing and we are improving, and I think the primary basis for that opinion is the fact that our inventory has shrunk as much as 50% over the last 2.5 years. So I think there's a general acknowledgement that we're progressing in the sense that our inventory is becoming very limited, and there's no question that that will have to drive some progress into the future here. It's just hard to feel it now.
One thing I think is kind of interesting is that we can call the market flat when on a small island we've had over 1,200 and some sales, plus that didn't even include land sales. So it is kind of interesting. We've been in the worst recession that most of us remember. It's been epic. And so for 2 years we've had somewhat close to the same amount, and yet when you read the statistics, they make it sound like that's a bad thing. But I think, Dean, you've talked a lot recently about the fact that the declining inventory is going to be a springboard.
I think you're right. I don't think there's any question that supply drives the market, and we're quite lucky actually when you consider that tourism is at its all-time highest, interest rates are the all-time lowest, and our inventory is shrinking rapidly. That's pretty good ingredients for a market recovery. I think one interesting statistic that we didn't look at was land. You mentioned land a little earlier, but what's happening is as condominiums and home sales are flat, land sales are actually picking up, and I think that's a good sign for the market too, because ultimately when the market drops, land is the first thing to go away and construction is the second thing to go away. But what we're seeing is an emerging construction market and the land sale market. Right now we're up about 26% in volume of land sales this year already, so that's a pretty good indication too. These are all early indicators, but I think they're good indicators and fundamentally sound indicators. Betty, you already referenced the great downswing that we just went through, and I think a slow, deliberate recovery is not going to be a bad thing. And even though the statistics are barely inching up, I think that that's not a bad thing, and that'll be, I think, a good thing for our market over the next 5 years or so.
I think, interestingly enough, the whole idea of the land and then more construction is also a great indicator for our community in general, because then we're going to have more people working. So if you got more people, you got more builders working, you've got more decorators working, everybody's working. The landscape people, the architects, everybody, surveyors. So that all will bring around a recovery, because a lot of those same people that get involved in that are going to be people that will be looking to buy real estate. So we do have a lot of, in a way, a lot of very positive indicators.
Agreed. Looking at some of the other statistics, I think what is also changing is the absorption rates. Properties on the market have come down dramatically. It used to take over a year to sell a house in Maui, and sometimes substantially longer. Right now we're running at a rate of 9.7 months to sell a residential house on Maui, and 12.5 months on a condo. So those aren't particularly attractive numbers, but they are showing improvement, and 9 months to sell a house is certainly a lot more attractive than what it's been over the last few years.
You know, that's another interesting Maui statistic as time has gone by, where you'd be listening to someone in Buffalo, New York, which actually, interestingly, Buffalo did not have a big slump in the market. Their market has stayed pretty steady. But when you come down to this whole thing of days on market, to a certain extent in a lot of the neighborhoods and a lot of the ownership on Maui, there's a lot of strength. So a lot of people that put a home on the market and really did want to sell it and they had some sort of a different plan in place for what they were going to do, if they didn't sell it, they had the strength to hang on. So they just hung on, sometimes took the home off the market for a while. But I think, again, there is a certain strength in the fact that there were fewer, let's say, desperate people trying to get the property sold. And I think in certain places that makes a difference too. What do you think on that?
I think you're right. You know, the other thing I'm looking at too is if you look at the last 12 months of sales, which has resulted in 905 residential sales. For the last 12 months, 40% of those sales were REOs or short sales, so either bank-owned or bank negotiating their way out of the deals. And that's a huge number, and that's obviously one of the reasons that's slowing down our progress, is that we're rooting out all these distressed properties from the market. And as I say, over the last 12 months, as many as 40% have been REOs or short sales. So that's a huge number. It is dropping. In fact, it showed a significant drop in condos, which over the last 12 months had 1,161 sales, and only 29% of those were REOs and short sales. Those were both over 50% the last time I checked. So that's also a good indication that a lot of these distressed properties are being removed from the market.
You know, Dean, one of the things we were talking about driving over here is the theory that you should buy real estate when all of the best bargains are gone. Now, that's a little hard for everyone to think about, but the point was, you know, a lot of our buyers are international buyers or people, you know, that are coming from the mainland or coming from foreign countries, et cetera. And a lot of people show up and they're really looking for this giveaway deal. They've heard all of these great things. But the point is that we have hit a market that the inventory is somewhat down. We're finding that people are, you know, like you're saying, the inventory's down, prices are kind of interesting, so that you step in and you're a little afraid, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now. But if you take a long, hard look, when you see that theoretically you think all of the best deals are gone, that's when you ought to step in. If you went to a community and right now it's kind of in the gutter, there's all of these, quote, giveaway properties, well, that could be going on for the next 5 years. Whereas I think right now, Maui real estate, I think we have hit a spot that, and I think the biggest thing, Dean, is that declining inventory statistic. I think if somebody has been thinking buy now.
I think you're absolutely right, and it speaks to the opinion that it's really hard to predict the bottom of the market or the top of the market. And so I think what you're alluding to is that there's a comfort level in buying where other people are buying as well, just because no one really wants to be the only one breaking the ice, and it's an uncomfortable place to be. The other thing is most savvy investors really would like to know that other people are buying before they buy as well, because, you know, ultimately to peg the bottom of the market is impossible, because you have to get past the bottom to look back and go, okay, there was the bottom. So it'd be impossible to predict the bottom of the market. There's a comfort level of buying, knowing that other people are buying as well, and I think ultimately, you know, people follow the lead.
I think you're right. There's an old saying, most people buy when everybody else is buying. Most people sell when everybody else is selling. The guy who's really savvy and makes money in real estate is able to step in at a point like this where he will be the person that really is starting it to happen, or it's already started happening. But again, you're looking at the market right now. I think this is the time. You know, call us at any time at 808-669-0070. Look at our website at sakamotoproperties.com, and you'll be able to get through our website. You can get to every property that's currently in the multiple listing service. You know, you'll be able to reach us or any of our agents. But again, call us 669-0070. Dean always has his cell phone, which is 870-7736. So, Dean?
Great, thank you. I was also thinking as we're driving over here of some of the hot topics in Maui real estate right now. I don't know if you want to switch gears here, Betty.
Perfect time.
Talk a little bit about, enough statistics, right? Talk a little bit about what's going on in Maui real estate, and you know, one of the things that's certainly on the forefront right now is this whole new Transient Vacation Rental law that's just going into effect, and what that all exactly means. But you know, as everyone probably knows already, vacation renting single-family homes is not allowed by Maui County Code, and you know, I think the county's done a great job of coming up with a plan that creates a process for legal vacation rental. And not only is it good for the process, but ultimately they're including a way to enforce this as well, which I think is important. And you know, what I'm reading up about right now is that the county has essentially gone onto the internet and they've printed out some 270 unpermitted single-family homes currently renting. And what the proposal is under the current law is to use that listing on the internet as a categorical violation of the code, and are going to be essentially have printed out 270 unpermitted properties. We'll be mailing letters to those people suggesting that they stop vacation renting or at least apply for a permit, and will immediately begin applying a higher tax rate to any of these properties that are advertising on the internet. So what's happening is it's a chance to get the appropriate taxes on properties being rented, as well as it's an inexpensive way to enforce the code, which right now is not really being enforced that well. You just can't afford to have a police force patrolling the island looking for vacation rentals, but they can now, under this law, pull in promotion of an ad on the internet and use that as the definitive statement that they can go ahead and raise the taxes and send a letter and require that they stop or apply for the permit.
Up until now, the only way that they go after someone that's doing, quote, an illegal rental, not paying taxes, etc., based on the use of the property, is if there's a complaint from the neighbor next door. And there have been instances where the police will go out to the house, and the people have ended up, in one case that we know of, had to leave the property. You know, so that's the renter here from the mainland is suddenly told that he has to move out of the house, which certainly causes a huge problem for him and for the existing owner. But I think it is time, from the standpoint of the county, that they figure out how they can collect the taxes that should be due. And I know it is a hardship on a lot of people that have been doing this, but the law hasn't changed. It's always said that a residential neighborhood is a residential neighborhood. It's not hotel zone. You know, so I think, again, Dean, it is a hot topic. And
it is a hot topic, especially with the homeowners and the communities who are concerned right now that all of a sudden there's going to be a bunch of vacation rentals in the neighborhood, but that's not the case. And there's a pretty clear process that's been established, and one important part of that process is a public notification period. So ultimately there'll be a sign posted on the property. There'll be a chance for neighbors to express their objection to a vacation rental. So this is only going to be subject to the community's input. It's a very strict process. They're only going to offer 88 permits on Maui, I believe, and I don't think it's going to be that easy to get 88. You know, given that you're going to have to essentially get permission from your neighbors to be able to do vacation rentals. So, you know, while it's a hot topic and people are concerned about it, I think it creates a process where, you know, it's legitimate. It involves community input and holds people accountable and provides for a way to clamp down on people that are abusing the system. So ultimately I think it's a good thing. It still has to be tweaked a little bit. They haven't set the rate for this single family vacation home yet, but ultimately that should be decided in the next two months, I guess, and they'll be able to start applying the new tax rate to people that are promoting their properties as vacation rental. That's for single family only.
yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting, and I think, like you say, hot topic, and we're going to all feel some repercussions from it in the community in a lot of different ways. I think it is difficult if you have a home and all of a sudden there's a short-term rental next to you where people are arriving at midnight, and if there's a pool, jumping in the pool, or if nothing else, they're just outside, they're excited, they're happy to be here, and you've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to work. So it's going to be, I think, a really interesting time. Another hot topic, Dean, what about the ag to rural?
Yeah, that's an interesting proposal too, and something that I've always felt was necessary on Maui. Maui is actually one of the only counties or states probably that doesn't have a rural zoning, and so what we've been faced with is, you know, the residential properties up to 10,000 square feet, and then it jumps automatically to a 2-acre agricultural property, and I think there's been a big void in the market, and it's shown. It shows as you drive around Maui today with all these agricultural subdivisions that really aren't agriculture, and the rural zoning allows them to create a non-agricultural large property like this that we've never had in the past, and I think it's a natural. If you look at communities like Plantation Estates in Kapalua, Laniapoko, they're 99% of the time there's no agricultural happening right now. So I think call it what it is. There's an additional benefit to creating a rural zoning, and that is that the county will now gain control over those large parcels. Under the agricultural zoning, it's a state mandated process. So the county has no control over those large agricultural properties, and I know they would love to be able to get some more control over the large properties. Call ag, and if it's not ag, call it rural, and that's I think the way everyone else does it.
Yeah, I think it does make sense. We can all see how it all happened, but I think it does make sense to have a zoning that's fitting of what the actual use of the property is. If the owners of the property happen to truly have an ag zoning and they've got some sort of an ag business that's going on, then granted, they probably should be able to stay within the ag zoning. But it's another one, Dean, where I don't quite know the whole, all of the ins and outs of it, but I think it is going to be, for the next couple of months, a pretty hot topic, trying to figure out exactly where that's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be well received. I think everyone wants it. We have a staff of county officials running around the island trying to figure out these agricultural properties and whether they're doing ag or not, and it's sort of a waste of their time, ultimately, because they're not even responsible for enforcement of ag properties, but they don't want to sit around and allow violations going on. So it's very messy right now, and I think this will go a long way to clarify everything, and I think everyone will be happy with the results of this one.
I think you're right. I think in the end result, it's going to work for everybody, and to get everybody paying their fair share of taxes and have the properties, the actual zoning, that reflects what the usage is, et cetera. Call us on any of these issues, 808-669-0070. I can't claim personally that I'm an expert on this ag to rural, but anything, we can get some sort of flyers out to you if you really want some information. Dean I think possibly knows a little bit more about it. His cell phone, 870-7736. So again, call us on anything that we can help you with. There'll be someone in the office that can chat with you. And check out our website, sakamotoproperties.com. And you can find a lot of information on there, and we're doing our best to keep working on it with Meyer Computer to come up with something that services your needs better and better so that you can get all of the information that you want.
And part of the problem with these issues are that they're still ongoing, and
yes.
So while they're in the forefront of the newspapers and everything else, they're not completely resolved yet, but I think it's important to stay in the loop on what's happening, because the changes are happening whether you know it or not, and they affect a lot of people, and it would make sense to be a little more in the loop, and we can certainly help with that because we tend to monitor them a little closer. Yeah, the other thing that I'm getting a lot of calls on, and people seem to be pretty freaked out about, is the fact that there's the rumor out there that there's going to be a 3.8% tax on all real estate sales starting in 2013. And this rumor started at the time that the Obama health care plan came into effect here, and there was this rumor. I'm hearing it at least once a week from people calling in saying, maybe should I be selling my house this year because next year 3.8% tax kicks in. So I did a little bit of research on it just to find out what the real deal is, and what we've come to conclude is that it's completely a rumor. There is no 3.8% tax kicking in next year. I think there's a misunderstanding on a 3.8% tax on dividends earned by people making over $200,000 or $250,000 in income, which will be kicking in next year. So it's not a real estate tax; it's a dividend capital gain tax that will be starting next year, as I say, on people that make over $200,000 as individuals. So, it's just a rumor. I'm hearing a lot about it right now. Everyone's talking about it, but fortunately there is no 3.8% tax next year.
Well, let's just hope there never is.
Probably will be eventually, but not at least a part of what's currently approved.
No, I agree with you. I keep hearing that, but in trying to research it at all, it really doesn't seem like we're getting anything credible. any of these things that get rumored are a little bit scary, but I think that it's hard if we all start being afraid of what might happen. We got enough to worry about that's already happened. So I think let's, stay on top of the things that we can control, and the things out of our control, let's just put them off for a while. Seems like a good idea to me. Hey, Dean, any properties that you're thinking right now you might want to toss out there as kind of some quick picks?
Well, it's all about my one new listing for me. I just got a brand new house, 6,700 interior square feet, which is a brand new house right on the beach in Kapalua. It's the most amazing property that I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. It's listed for $21 million, or $20,800,000, and
21 probably works.
21 we can call it, and but it is the most amazing property that I've ever seen. You can see it on our website. We have new photography coming on this week, but statewide, this is one of the premier oceanfront properties or beachfront properties on Maui. Not on Maui, but in the entire island. We're getting brokers from Oahu coming over to look at it. They do not have any new beachfront homes on the market in Oahu. We have Maui ready just at 2 or 3. So this is an end of the market that is still fairly active. There's a lot of great qualified candidates for these kinds of properties out there, and this is going to be one of the very special properties that Maui's had in a long time.
I think the point is well taken, Dean, that if you go island-wide, I mean not in all of Hawaii, Hawaii-wide, you cannot find a better property than this. And because there hasn't been much new construction oceanfront, most of the land that's the land that where you would want to be is already taken. So you're only going to find a few properties like this that are actually brand new. So it is a one of a kind. So I think that we're going to find people from around the world, and so far the people that have looked at it have been, we've had people from a variety of different countries, Japan, Korea, China, and I think we're going to keep seeing that. Mainland U.S., I still think probably the buyer will come from the mainland U.S., but it'll be interesting to see exactly who steps up. And people are trying to look at it, and I think it is something that if someone's looking for oceanfront, I think it is going to be one of the properties that every broker on Maui is looking to show when they've got that special buyer.
Right, there's just not that many people that are crazy enough to be doing $20 million spec homes, and I hope my client's not listening to this.
Yes, that's right. There aren't many people crazy enough, but I'll tell you, having said that, he built a home that is absolutely the best of the best, and it will sell. So if you want to take a look at it, give us a call, and we'll get you out there to see it. Another thing we've talked about a lot, Dean, and we're kind of getting ready already, winding down, but is the fact that right now we do have a lot of properties that are priced right, and we have interest rates that have never been better. So it's kind of like these two things have collided. It's not going to happen again. So if you've been thinking you want to buy something, it is now. Call us. We will help you. If you're looking to have your first home, or if you're looking to get out of a condo that you've had, give us a call. I mean, we've got a number of different opportunities that are available. We've got a couple of properties at Kapalua that somebody owns a home that would take a condo in exchange. And we're seeing so many different ideas. So call us, 669-0070. That's 808-669-0070, SakamotoProperties.com. And check out Dean Otto's website.
Absolutely. My website is deanotto.com. It's a brand new website.